Hey guys, this week's tip comes to us via request, and it happens to be one of the most requested topics that I get. Now, we're going to take a look at simple file importing into SMS. I'm doing this against my better judgment because I got a feeling I'm going to get beat up by quite a lot of you. But we're going to simplify this thing and make it easy to understand. So what we're going to do is import a simple CSV file and its contents into SMS. We're going to do so using an existing template in the software, and we're going to modify it just a little bit to meet our specific needs for this video. Now, this is one of those videos that not a lot of folks like me to show, so we're going to keep it really, really simple. And since I'm afraid I'm going to get locked up, hop on over to savefatjamie.com and sign the petition for those guys that want to beat me up. Just tell them, hey, we're just trying to learn something new. So without further ado, let's hop in. So the tool that we're going to use today is called Exchange File. It kind of looks like this right here. Now it's located in your main root directory of the SMS, probably storeman something or other file, in the Exchange File directory. It's an exe, and you can see it right here, Exchange File exe. And when you open that up, it's going to run this tool that you see right back here. But before we step into this thing, there's a few things that we want to review. So before everybody goes crazy, just rest assured we're importing in this very simplistic CSV file right here. It's comma delimited, and that would be the recommendation I would provide for you to ask for the file format from your vendors. Get a comma delimited CSV file, and it's pretty easy. Now you can see I don't have a ton of information, but that's all right. It's going to help me automate importing these new items into my database. What I have is UPC number, product description, this is actually POS description, price quantity, so how many can I buy at this price, which is the price. If it's regular or sale price, we're not going to import this in this case, but at least it shows us in the sheet that I got from my vendor. Case size, cost. Then these two fields here you may or may not get. This far right one over here, that's for the size, and this is for the brand description right here. I'll show you how to import those in so that we can fill out some more of the SMS tables. So before we actually start the import process, there's a couple key things that you need to remember before you start that import process. The first one is make sure to set up a subdepartment if it's completely new. If you can use an existing sub, that's great. So in my case, we're going to do the wine import subdepartment 178, and to show you there's no smoke and mirrors, I'm going to set my filter to sub. I'm going to set it to 178. That's what I want to search on. I'm going to search, and I got no items here. So we're going to be importing all the items today into this particular sub. Now the other thing that we're going to do, most vendors aren't going to send you their vendor code in a CSV file. You're going to be making those up as you go. They may, and if they do, that's great. But in a lot of cases, they're just going to assume that you know that it's from their vendor because this is the only vendor that you sell in your store, right? So make sure you know what the vendor ID is. And in this case, I'm going to use the best wine disty ever. Here's my ID, BWDE. Now, armed with that information, I can hop over into the import tool and get this baby set up. All right, so we're over in Exchange File, and we're going to set this baby up. First thing we're going to do is come right over here to the right side, and we're going to have to add in an import process. Now, this is going to add a node to your system. Now, there can be a cost associated with this, so make sure you get with your reseller to ensure that you have all the proper nodes licensed or the import-export tool that allows unlimited nodes. So the first process, add a node, and it's going to set that node number up here by default. Then you're going to come over to descriptor and go ahead and type in a name here. And I'm just going to call mine wine import. So that's going to be my descriptor for this process. I'm going to go ahead and save it just in case I fat finger it. Now for file to import, I'm going to drop down to the handy dandy search bar here, and I'm going to go right here to my wine list video, the CSV file that I showed you just a little bit ago. I'm going to go ahead and double tap that, and that's going to set that as the import file. Now this is key because I'm not great at this stuff, so I utilize import templates that are already set up because I don't know how to set up all the tables necessary to create items. So if you're just like me and you need a quick, simple import, this is what you do. You come to Import Template, you hit the drop down, you come down to Item Change and select that. And that will give you and provide all the tables needed on import to create items. So the main item table, the price table, the cost table, all that jazz will be set up by selecting this template. Now we need to come down to your import file, this box here, and we need to name the actual import, I don't know what the heck you want to call it, but it's the import file that's created or that will be used to suck all this this data in. So, you know, you can call it whatever the heck you want. I'm just going to call it I_import.sqm. SQM is the actual SQL name, or extension at least, that's going to suck all this data into the database. We're going to hop right down here to file format. What type are we importing? Well, we're going to do ASCII CSV. It's basically a CSV comma delimited. That's the key right there, because that tells the system that the comma is what creates the column. That's what we want. Leave this stuff over here at default. No need to mess with that. Don't worry about these buttons down here in our case. Come down to working directory, hit the little toolbar over here, make sure it's in your Exchange file, because that's where we're going to dump our CSV. It is, so okay. Backup directory, go ahead and make it the same as well. Exchange file, okay, it's sitting there. Over here on output folders, these are going to be the inbox here of whatever your main hierarchy is within the store, and then the air directory is going to be the air box as well. So those two things might already be set up by default, but if not, just use the little folder out here and browse them. From there, go ahead and hit save, just in case we fat finger this thing. Now what we can do from here is go ahead and hit the edit button, and when we hit this button here and I release it, it's going to open up the magic. Alright, a little tip within a tip here. Before you release this edit button, make sure you close the CSV file if you had it open in Excel or Notepad or whatever, because if you don't, you'll get an error, and it's just because SMS can't access it for full read-write access. So make sure you close it. Then release the edit button. It's going to pop up the handy dandy tool. I'll drag it up here so we can see it. And now let's review. This is the actual steps of importing the data from that CSV. Alright, so let's step through this. It's not all that complicated, don't worry. Again, really simple here. The stuff and the data up here in this window, that's our CSV file. You got the UPC, POS description, price, cost, all that sort of stuff. That's the exact file right up here in the view. Down here, because we selected that template on the previous screen, these are the pre-populated fields that will show up. We're going to delete some and we're going to add some. So we're going to modify it just slightly to fit our needs in this particular case. So the first thing that we want to make sure is that we have a record set here, and we do in this case because we selected that template on that other screen. So we got record format 1. This other stuff here, it's just grids. So you can see if I go ahead and put the cursor here, it's going to say I'm on field 1, I'm on row 1. If I put the cursor here, I'm on field 1, row 2. So just think of it as a grid. It's not all that complicated. So let's put the cursor back up here, come down here to the fields that we want to import. Target identifier. Well, I'm a simplified guy. I don't need target, so I'm going to delete it. Get rid of it. Price level. I'm not messing with price levels today, so I'm going to get rid of it. UPC code. We do need to add that. It's pretty simple to do. It's right up here. All we have to do is highlight UPC, hop over here to commands, hit the plus button, select UPC format because we're importing what? A UPC. So hit that. This part, not all that complicated, so let's just step through it nice and slow. So in order to tell the system how to populate our UPC field, we have to tell it what field number it is. Where do you think we get that? Well, right up here from the coordinates. Now watch, if I highlight out here, the POS description right up here, if I highlight that, see how it says field 2? If I go over here, I think this is my cost here. If I highlight this, it tells me field 7. Well, all I have to do is highlight the UPC. It tells me it's field 1. So change this number from field 0 to field 1. How do you test it? Come right up here to the test button. Hit that, and it's going to show you your UPC is right there. That's pretty simple. Nothing at all hard about that. Next field up, POS description. We've got to tell the system where the POS description is in our CSV file. So we come over here, hit plus. Now this is a character set field. So go ahead and hit character because it can be alphanumeric or all sorts of goofy stuff. So hit that. It's set by default at field 0. How do we find out what field it is? Well, let's come right up here to our grid and look at our coordinates. Let's highlight the POS descriptor. It tells us it's field 2. Let's come down here, change the 0 to a 2. Let's test that bad boy, and right there's our POS description. That's pretty easy. Let's move on. Expanded description. We come over here, we hit the plus sign. Again, it's character because it could be alphanumeric or some goofy stuff. Hit character. We need to tell the system which field it is up here. It's this one out here, so we come back up here, highlight it. It's going to show us it's field 8 here in our grid. Change the 0 to an 8. Test it if you want. You can see, yep, that sure is it. Now, let's come on to subdepartment code. We're going to highlight that. We're going to hit plus, and in this case, remember we set up the sub, it was number 178. So we're going to select constant value, and we're going to type in here 178. Pretty darn simple. Test it. 178. That's our subdepartment code. That's pretty easy. What's up next for us? Well, it's price quantity. That's pretty easy. We come over here, we hit plus. This is numeric because generally it's going to be a numeric number. So that's pretty simple. We come over here, it says it's field 0. We know that's not right. We know this field right here, this 1, that is our price quantity. And if I look at my coordinates, it's field 3. If I hit in 3 here, I can quickly test it. Yep, that's right. Come down to price, add it, come here to price field. Now I need to tell the system which field it is. So my price is right here. It's the $13.58. I highlight it, look at my coordinates. Coordinates are 4, so it's field number 4. Drop down here to price format, to this drop down, hit it, and it's a quantity price, and I want to look for price. That's what I'm extracting out of this field up here. Let's test it. Yep, that's right. Now let's come down here to store responsible. We're not really worried about this in this import, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We're done from at least the stuff that came in on the simplified template that we're using. Now we're going to modify it just a little bit and make this thing work the way we want it. So out of the data in our CSV that's not present in the template, what do we have? Well, we've got case size right here, 1. We've got cost right here, 1079, and then we got size way out here, 750 milliliters in this case. We're going to go ahead and add those, but there's a couple other pieces that we're going to add to make this thing work. Anytime you're going to import in a cost, you got to have a vendor, right? That's just the way SMS is built. If I come back here to SMS, every item has its cost associated with a vendor, right? Pretty self-explanatory. So what we're going to do is come over to the fields section, hit plus, because we're going to add something. Now, who are we going to add? Well, I'm going to go ahead and type in the search bar here, vendor, and I'm looking for vendor ID. It's code F27. That's the SIL number there. If I highlight that and hit add, it's going to go ahead and add vendor ID right down here. Now remember what we said the vendor ID was. I'm going to come over here and add it, and it's going to be a character because it could be alphanumeric. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's delete that. Did you see how I did that? I said character. Nope, that's not it. Let's delete that. I'm going to come here to plus, and we're going to make it a constant value. Remember what we said it was early on? Well, it was best wine distributor ever, BWDE. And if I go ahead and test that baby, you'll see my vendor ID is now set up appropriately. All right, so we got our vendor added. Let's do this logically. Let's add our case quantity first, then our cost. So I'm going to come right up here to the data. I'm going to highlight this number right here. This is my case quantity right here, that 1. It's going to tell me it's field 6. So that's good. I know what it is, but I'm going to highlight the case quantity, right click, paste to new field. When I do that, that same little goofy window pops up here to help me search. Now I'm going to search for case quantity, and I start typing in case. It's actually case size. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Add, it's going to go ahead and put in the case size over here in the fields, and then what am I going to tell it? Well, case size in generally everybody's world is numeric, so I can go ahead and hit that, and it's field 6, just like the coordinates say. If I want to test it, I can see my case size is 1. Pretty darn simple. Now let's come up here and add our cost, which is right here, $10.79. I'm going to right click it, paste to a new field, and now I'm going to type in cost so I can quickly find it. Base cost, there it is, add it. Base cost in our world is going to be similar to a price. So let's select price field. It tells us it's field 7. It's already selected. That's great. Matches our grid. We're going to tell it the format is quantity per price, and we're going to say look for the value that looks like price. If I test that result, you see I get it right here at 1079. When you import cost in a CSV file, there's one other key element of data that you need. And if you've worked with SMS, you're probably pretty familiar with it. We need a date that that cost is active for. So all we're going to do is come right over here to the fields, hit plus, and I'm going to go ahead and start typing in cost here, and it's going to bring up all the fields, and I'm going to select base cost date. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and click add. Come over here to the command section, hit plus, and I'm just going to select present date because I'm importing this stuff in today, and there's no reason for me to select any other date for this simplified view. If I test it, you'll see it's going to put the Julian date like you're used to seeing in SMS right up here as the result. Pretty cool. All right, so in our simplified import, there's only one additional data element that we need to select, and that's right up here, the 750 milliliter. It's basically the size of the bottle in this case. I cannot remember what this thing is called, so I'm just going to highlight it here, and I'm going to hop back over here into Pro because I'm going to show you a tip within a tip within a tip. So 3 tips in 1 week. Pretty darn cool. The reason Pro is open is if I can't remember what this is called from a field from a field name, I can hop back into Pro. I can stick my cursor right here because this is what this is right here. It's the size, although I don't think that's what it's called in terms of a header. So I stick my cursor there, I come up to my filter, I drop down, and I can go all the way to the bottom here. This where it says obj.f22, F22. That is the SIL number for this field that we selected right here. I can select any field in SMS and do that. But right now I want this data element. I don't know what it is. It's F22. So now I'm going to hop back to our little tool here, make sure I've highlighted this, right click on it, paste it to a new field just like what we did. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. There it is, size description, F22. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to call this a character because you can see it's alphanumeric, and it can probably have some other goofy stuff in it too. So let's go ahead and do that. You can see it's field 9, matches our grid. Let's test that baby. Everything looks good. We're down to the nitty gritty. One last piece in this screen. Hit the setup button. Right here you can see we're using the item change template, the one we selected on the first screen. We want to ensure create a batch in SMS is selected, which it is. That's great. In my example here, you can use your thinking cap down here a little bit if you like, but in my example, we're using the add replace feature. What add means, if this item up here is not in the database, it's added. What replace means, pretty self-explanatory. If this item is in the database, whatever it is we're importing will replace existing data. So keep that in mind. In my example, that's fine because I don't have any items in this subdepartment. We're good there. Let's close out. Let's save. Let's close out of this. We're back to the main screen. And what do you think we're going to do? Well, we're going to come over here and save it so we don't screw it up. And now we're ready to test. So you feeling good? Well, you ought to be. Pretty simple stuff. All we have to do, come down here and hit the run button. We're going to hit the run button. You saw a little window pop up here. SMS went and did its thing. And with any luck, when we come back here to Pro and we go look at our in-store batches, that batch that we just ran will be here. So we're going to come over here to batch. We're going to come down here to execute in-store batch. I already had a couple ones that were set up in our demo database. Here's the new item creation, dated 6/1. I can look at the count. It's 5 items. It's those one that we just did. I'm going to throw it over here to the right side so I can execute it. So we created that batch with the import tool. I brought in in-store batches. I threw it over here. I executed it. You sure you want to do it? Heck yeah, we want to do it. Execute, close, come over here, view, item cost, main item cost view, the one you've seen a gazillion times. Come down here to sub department. Let's select 178. That was our sub. Double tap enter, and look at that. All 5 items, all the data, our main descriptor, our POS descriptor, our sub, our price, our vendor, our cost, all that stuff imported for each one of these items. Pretty cool and pretty darn simple as well. Just a different way to go through it. Well, you know what? We just completed both objectives for this week's tip. We took a simple CSV file, we imported it in using an existing template, we modified that template just a little bit, we brought our stuff automatically over into SMS through that import process, and you know what? It wasn't all that darn hard. Pretty cool stuff, and I hope you learned something this week. Well, that's it for this week's tip. Until next time, have a great day.